The Magic may have lost their first Summer League game in Vegas, but something important carried over while establishing the culture as a sign of Summer League success. We'll get to that on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is July 18th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, why the most important thing that we can get from Summer League is to see the culture carry over, how the Orlando Magic look like themselves even in their summer form. We'll talk about that, plus why they ultimately lost to the Memphis Grizzlies and how Jett Howard and Tristan da Silva fared in an important game. We're going to get to all that coming up here in just a moment, plus the Magic filled their final roster spot. We'll talk about that too. But before we do any of that, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. To search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. We are doing our deep dives into Summer League. We are talking extensively about what we're seeing, especially from the roster players in Jett Howard and Tristan da Silva. And we'll talk a little bit more about them specifically in our second segment. But we do always have to qualify everything that we see as this is just Summer League. How do we know what's real? How do we know what's going to translate to October? We don't. Frankly, we don't know. I say this all the time. I'm sure if you've listened to me for several years now, you've heard me say Summer League doesn't tell us who can play. It tells us who can't play. If someone doesn't look good in Summer League, that's a problem. If someone looks like they can hold their own, well, that's encouraging, but it's not dispositive. It doesn't tell us, it doesn't help us make conclusions. And so I spend a lot of my time in Summer League thinking about, okay, what is this player doing that clearly won't translate or clearly doesn't matter? Like, I don't care necessarily about how Jared Culver looks trying to attack the basket. That's not going to be his role if he is on the Magic's roster. That's the kind of stuff I don't care about. I think about, okay, how is Jett Howard's spot-up shooting? What is his role going to look like for the Magic? The fact that he is showing some ability to pass off the dribble is really encouraging. Anthony Black, he said he wanted to be more aggressive this summer. And I like that he's being more aggressive, but I'm not so worried about him struggling to make shots or struggling to attack off the dribble or get his own shot off the dribble. I'm more concerned about the way he controls the tempo of the game, whether he can make a spot up three, whether he can attack a little bit, because the fact of the matter is teams aren't going to double him the way the Pelicans doubled him on Sunday. In fact, for a lot of these players, they're not going to face the same attention and pressure that they're facing at the Summer League level. The fact that they're doubling Xavier Moon to get the ball out of his hands, that's not going to tell me much for the regular season. So I sit here talking about these Summer League games, and again, it's better to know that a player can do something than not to know if he can. You know, if they have the potential to do something, that means they could do it at a higher level, I suppose. But to me, I want to think about what is something that will carry over to October. And a lot of that is ooey gooey, touchy-feely stuff. A lot of that is stuff that you can't quite put your finger on. It's intangible things. It's, and Jeff Weltman's going to hate me for saying this, cultural things. Things that feel very deeply embedded into the Orlando Magic. What I'm looking at and what I took away from a 104-96 loss to the Grizzlies on Wednesday is something that feels very, very deeply embedded on this team. A character trait that I think ultimately leads to the Magic's success. That ultimately is something that's going to matter in October. An attitude, if you will, that means something in October. The last two games, the Magic dug themselves very deep holes. Pelicans made a lot of shots. The Grizzlies made a ton of shots. And the Magic at times struggled to keep up, which feels very Magic at times. But the Magic as a group did not suddenly splinter off. This is Summer League. Guys need to show what they can do. It's Summer League is a weird dynamic because you are playing on a team. They are keeping score. There is a winner. There is a trophy at the end. But you also have to take care of yourself a little bit. You do have to showcase because you're auditioning for a job. And while certainly playing well within a team context probably helps you a lot, not putting up numbers doesn't help you either. You got to be able to put enough numbers to get noticed by somebody. And there are a lot of players on this Magic roster that I think have done that. But you got to be able to do it within a winning context. And so when you get, you see a lot of Summer League blowouts. When you get to these opportunities, that could be an opportunity for someone to say, I'm going to take over. Or I got to take care of me. It's not about the team anymore. I've got to look good. But obviously those aren't the kind of people the Magic look for. That's not who this Magic team is about. And so the fact that Orlando trailed by 17 on Sunday came back to win that game. The fact that Orlando trailed by 19 looked pretty lifeless and came back to tie the game in the fourth quarter, give themselves a chance to win. The fact that Jet Howard could talk after the game and say, we tied the game and then kind of went back to the things that dug us into that hole to begin with. Even that recognition from a rostered player tells me that there is something deeply embedded within everyone that wears a Magic jersey. And again, I have been very, very high, and I've been lavishing praise on Lionel Chalmers. I will do it again. Lionel Chalmers, the Magic Summer League head coach and assistant coach for the team, has been really even-keeled on the sideline. He's exemplified kind of that stay level approach that we see Jamal Mosley have a lot. And he's had this team prepared. He's put a lot of faith in this team. They have put a lot of faith in him. And the results, yes, they're 2-1. Yes, they lost on Wednesday. The results, I think, speak for themselves. I think Lionel Chalmers has done a very good job preparing this team and helping them make the most of this time, both individually and as a group. And that speaks to the larger project. That speaks to what it means to be a Magic player. This game very easily could have gone completely boring, could have become a 30-point loss like what Orlando did to Cleveland. Orlando blitzed Cleveland with their three-point shooting early in that game. Cleveland, they got off the mat in the first half. I made a joke that it was starting to feel like Game 7 again. But then the Magic put the hammer down and kept going. And Cleveland devolved into isolation play. It looked like a Summer League game. It looked like a team that was disorganized versus a team that was organized. And look, New Orleans is a better team. They will play Memphis tomorrow. Memphis was a really organized team, a credit to their coaching staff and what they did too. There's a lot of things for this team to learn. And look, it's a Summer League roster. It's imperfect. But I was really impressed, and I have been impressed this entire Summer League with how organized, how intense, how into the game the Magic are as a whole. Look, they don't have a Paolo Banchero. This roster, it's a Summer League roster. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. I'm not going to make mountains out of molehills. I'm not going to care about little mistakes here and there. It's summer league. There are going to be mistakes. It's just the nature of this environment. It's the nature of everything. But one thing I think we can all agree watching this summer Magic League, the summer Magic play, is that they exemplify this don't say quit attitude. They exemplify the togetherness that is so essential to who this Magic team is. And that is something that was brought over from October to July, and something that Jet Howard and Tristan Da Silva and Anthony Black, the three key players on this roster, are going to carry with them to October. If part of Summer League is beginning to kind of welcome and incorporate young players into your culture and really teach them what you're about as an organization, as a team, yes, there are problems with these last two games. We'll get to them here in a minute. But the way the Magic have approached that adversity, the way that the Magic have answered that adversity, that's something that's going to carry over into October. And it's why I think the Summer League has been a smashing success. It has been an incredible success. But the Magic still lost. We got to reckon with that. We got to deal with that. We'll talk about why the Magic fell to the Memphis Grizzlies and how Jet Howard and Tristan Da Silva continue to impress. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Major League Baseball is on break. If you're looking to hop on over to St. Pete or take the Bright Line down to Miami to see some baseball this summer, Game Time is your ticket to the game. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. I can speak to that out of experience. I was thinking about going to the big concert last week over at Camping World Stadium. I hadn't bought tickets yet. I was planning a flight to Vegas at the time. I remember looking Wednesday night, just a couple hours before the concert, at the ticket prices and was surprised at how cheap those prices were. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Game Time really does take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's okay to procrastinate with Game Time. Game Time offers so many great deals. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Orlando City, Orlando Pride, both coming back to action here. We're going to have Leagues Cup coming up here. The NWSL also has this competition with Liga MX. Lots of great soccer still to come. Lots of great sports still here in Orlando before the Magic get going. And with zone deals, you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Plus, with the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price on another ticket app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. For your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel, program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports from the local experts who know their stuff. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, obviously, it's Summer League. I'm going to spin things a little more positively. There is nothing in this game that is worrying to the extent of like, oh, like this is trouble, or, oh, this player that we need to play well didn't play well. Anthony Black sat out with a sore ankle. Maybe that explains why he struggled a little bit on Sunday. Not clear if he will play in game number 5. I doubt that Jet Howard and Tristan Da Silva will play in the back-to-back on Thursday. So I think we'll see some of the deeper bench guys get some run. We saw Teo Maledon get his first minutes in this game. We'll see a couple of other players, I think, get their opportunity here as Summer League comes to a close. But at the end of the day, like I said, something that is essential to the Magic's success is their defense. And the Magic's defense was not particularly engaged. Some of that is early turnover. Some of that was missed shots early. Memphis is really putting an emphasis on trying to attack and transition a lot more and speed up their play a little bit more. And we're seeing that in their Summer League team. Memphis was pressing. They were trying to get guys uncomfortable, speed them up a little bit. The Magic had Xavier Moon running point. He did not look that great. He made some big shots down the stretch, but he did not look in control of the game. Jett Howard got some on-ball reps, and there was some promise there. I'm not going to lie. I like some of the passes that he made, but obviously that's still a skill that he is developing and not one that you want to try too much in a big game. I will say Jett Howard had some nice passes, had a couple of nice pick and roll reads. That is definitely something that could be part of his game. But Memphis, Memphis, especially early on, did a really good job speeding Orlando up and, made it up an uphill climb for Orlando all game long. They're up by 10 in the first quarter pretty quickly. The Magic had an uphill climb and, with inconsistent shooting, with ball movement that was okay, not great, and inability to get downhill and create those gaps, the same kind of gaps that Memphis was creating. It was tough. And look, Memphis made some tough shots early. They got hot, and that helped them stake the lead and helped them play very comfortably ahead. Orlando fixed a lot of those issues at halftime, though, and they came out, they shot the ball well. Jett Howard made a couple threes early. They defended a lot better. They were a lot more composed. They were able to deal with the pressure a little bit. They got themselves back in the game. And again, you got to give credit to the Magic for making that run and for getting back into the game. Again, it's Summer League. This stuff isn't important. You want to win, yes, but you're not losing sleep if you lose. You're not would I have liked the Magic to win the Summer League title? Sure. They're not technically out of it. I think they're pretty much out of it at this point. But having said that, I'm not losing sleep that they lost. There's still a lot of things that I really liked in this game. And so we got to talk about our guys and talk about the guys that we care about. Jett Howard, I thought, had an inconsistent game, but not a bad one. 21 points, 6 for 14 shooting, 3 for 6 from 3. That makes him 3 for 8 on 2-pointers, 6 for 9 for the foul line. Love that he's getting to the foul line. He had like a 56, 57, 58 true shooting percentage. 3 assists, 2 turnovers. Look, I think Jett Howard was gunning a little bit. I thought he took a couple of quick shots. He was at his best when he was getting downhill to the basket and trying to create and force things a little bit. He was at his best when others were setting him up for 3. And again, the shots that he's going to get when he's playing for the Magic next year, when he's playing at the NBA level, are going to be there. And he's making those shots and he's taking those shots. So I'm not losing sleep over that. We're seeing where Howard's game can still expand, which is interesting to say the least, but not anything that I'm freaking out over. Not, again, the mistakes that he's making are mistakes I'm fine with him making. Look, defensively, he can still be a little bit more physical, but he's gotten better defensively. He's not a sieve on defense. He's not making critical mistakes or critical errors. Maybe he needs to be a little bit better on the glass. That'd be probably the biggest criticism I'd have. But, you're not noticing him playing poor defense. He was a leader on the floor for this game. And the Magic went how he went, both hot and cold. Struggled a little bit early. Magic fell down. He played a lot better in the third quarter. Magic came back. He went out of the game after the Magic tied it just to get a normal break in the fourth quarter because he was playing so many minutes. Memphis was able to pull away a little bit, take the lead back. He came back in, missed a couple shots. Memphis kind of put the hammer down. They went on a 13-0 run to retake a 13-point lead. So look, Jett did good things. I don't want to pretend otherwise. I am very pleased with the way that Jett Howard plays and has played in the Summer League. But again, just not, for a functioning team, the Magic needed Anthony Black. Like Anthony Black would have helped a lot in this game. I do believe that. Tristan da Silva, I continue to be really impressed with this kid. 17 points, 6 for 9 shooting, 4 for 6 from 3, 1 for 1 from the foul line, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. One of those assists, a crazy good push ahead pass on a fast break. I think Moon had a block. It was in the second quarter. Moon had a block. Silva got the rebound, immediately chucked it down court to Jarrett Culver. Culver let it bounce twice in front of him before he picked it up and dunked it. Like just a laser of a pass. I will say this about Tristan da Silva. We talked after Sunday's game about how he's been as advertised, that he does all these little things that just don't show up on a box score. And he's just always in the right spot and just moving around. Like that is so true. He's getting more confident, and you can see that, he's willing to attack a little bit more, but if it's not there, he brings it back out. Maybe he needs to tighten his handles a little bit, but he's just always in the right spot and he always delivers. Like it's uncanny. Like, I would say this, like his passing's really good. B, he's going to be a really valuable spot up shooter. Like his spot up shooting has been on point this week in Vegas. I don't think like that is something. And that's gonna be something that's gonna make an impact for this team immediately. I knew that Da Silva was a pretty solid shooter. I didn't think he was this good. And he's been really reliable as an outside shooter all summer league long. Now, again, it's going to be, okay, what happens when he gets chased off the line? That's going to be the big thing when we get to October and we get to the finals. But of course we're going to get to finals. But when we get to the regular season, but like, dude, this guy is just always in the right spot. My only concern in this game, he got the call on GG Jackson and struggled with him a little bit. Again, that lack of lateral quickness or his lateral quickness wasn't fantastic. GG Jackson's a big dude. Really got downhill on him a little bit. Again, I think Da Silva held his own and I think he got his licks in too, but that is something to be thinking about a little bit is whether you can hold up against bigger players and certainly against some of the quicker players that he might face off against when he gets to the regular season. But again, I think you can only come away from this summer league really impressed with Tristan da Silva and really believing like, oh, this is a kid or this is a guy that's going to make a pretty immediate impact for this Magic team. Really, really excited to see more of Tristan da Silva and see what more we can get from him. The Orlando Magic also getting 18 points from Jay Huff, 8 for 13 shooting, 3 rebounds. Just another solid typical game from Jay Huff. He really struggled defensively early on. Their center, Trey Jemison, he had 9 points, 4 for 8 shooting. Got some push shots on him early. Again, I think it's clear Jay Huff is a really good summer league center. He's a really good G League center. Kind of lacks some of the mobility to just help out on the perimeter. He's in drop coverage a lot. Jen, I think he just can get out physicaled here. Sorry, I'll break some news here in a minute. Get out physicaled here throughout the playoffs. He can get out physicaled when he's on the court. So just there's a reason why Jay Huff is in the G League, and I think that's pretty obvious. Jared Culver at 8 points, 4 for 10 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. I still really like Jared Culver. Just again, the shooting kind of reared its ugly head. Jared Rhoden, a really nice game, 12 points, 5 for 10 shooting off the bench, added 5 rebounds. There's breaking news as I'm recording this. Let's take our break. The Orlando Magic fall to the Memphis Grizzlies, 104-98. I apologize, got the score wrong earlier. 104-98. They're 2-1 in Summer League. Not technically out of the Summer League playoff race, but more likely than not, they are. And they will be back in action Thursday against the Brooklyn Nets. They'll have one more Summer League game. I have some news that's broken while I have been recording. I'll comment briefly on that. We'll talk as well about the Magic potentially signing Corey Joseph. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. So as I'm recording this, it is currently 11:18 p.m. on July 17th. I unfortunately have the painful news to share that Orlando Magic co-founder, their original GM, Orlando Magic Hall of Famer, Pat Williams, died today at 84 years old. Pat Williams was the driving force to bringing the Orlando Magic to Orlando, to getting an expansion team here. Jimmy Hewitt was the businessman that had the idea of bringing the Magic to Orlando, of bringing the NBA to Orlando. he needed an NBA guy to back it, a salesman to back it, and to get the community excited about it. And that man was Pat Williams. And Pat Williams has been a fixture for this franchise from its beginning. Even when he wasn't working for the franchise over the last few years, he was a fixture for everything this franchise could be. To say the least, getting the NBA to Orlando was a fever dream. Orlando in the 80s is not the city it is today. And I would personally argue, and granted, I am as old as the Magic. I was born in 1988. I cannot imagine the city without the Magic. I would argue that outside of Disney deciding to plant its flag here in Central Florida, nothing has been bigger to spur and spawn the growth of Orlando than the Orlando Magic. And that was Pat Williams' dream. That was the sales pitch that Pat Williams brought, to make this city believe that it was not just a one-stop town, or was not a small town or just growing around Disney, that this was a city that could stand on its own. UCF is important in the city's history. There are so many things that are important in the city's history. Pat Williams coming to Orlando, seeing this city's potential, seeing what this community could be and how this community could grow with the presence of a major sports team. This city is forever indebted to Pat Williams. And it is forever indebted to his vision for what this city could be. I'm not going to talk about Corey Joseph today. We'll save that for tomorrow. So sorry for messing the rundown here. Again, news was breaking as I'm recording here on Wednesday night. This is an incredibly sad day. I want to read some statements since I'm reading these as I get them for the first time too. From Orlando Magic chairman Dan DeVos and CEO Alex Martins in a joint statement, quote, "Pat Williams simply brought magic to Orlando. His accomplishments will always be remembered, armed with his ever-present optimism and unparalleled energy. He was an incredible visionary who helped transform the world of sports in multiple ways, from bringing the Magic to Orlando to transforming sports marketing and promotions. He was always ahead of the curve. Pat forever changed the sports landscape in Orlando. He shined a light on what those who called Orlando home already knew, that Central Florida was a fabulous place to live, work, and play. We all owe him a debt of gratitude, and he will certainly be missed, but never forgotten." From the Williams family, this is coming from his son. Quote, "It is with great sadness that we share this news about our dad, Pat Williams. He stepped into his eternal reward today. And as believers, we know that this is cause for celebration. We have peace through our broken hearts, knowing he's in the arms of Jesus. He was the best husband, father, and grandfather and brother anyone could ask for. A warrior, a hero, a visionary, but most importantly, a larger-than-life follower of Jesus. He loved a challenge, and we moved our family to Orlando to start the Magic. He was full of excitement and energy that he displayed every day. We all grew up believing that anything is possible because of his unwavering enthusiasm for what he was passionate about. Those who attended the games, saw him at church, or spent time with him in a social setting know that he never met a stranger and was always quick with an encouraging word. He was a giver, a teacher, the ultimate cheerleader, and he was a lifelong learner. He loved to read and he cherished books, but the most important thing that he was quick to talk about is his relationship with Jesus. We know for a fact that he would want everyone reading this to realize that the greatest decision you'll ever make is to make Jesus your friend and your savior." End quote. Obviously, it's a sad day for everyone associated with the Orlando Magic. It is a sad day for everyone who got to know Pat Williams. And I will quote, I think everyone in the Magic family is mourning at this moment and has the Williams family in their thoughts and prayers. I will I will close with the traditional Jewish statement when someone is grieving. May Pat Williams' memory be a blessing to everyone who knew him, who was aware of him. May his memory be a blessing. Pat Williams, dead at 84. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll end on that somber note. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the Filming Cinema podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. For even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, we will check in on the Magic's game against the Brooklyn Nets. We will talk about the Magic's reported signing of Corey Joseph as the Magic fill out the final spot on their roster. And we'll see what else comes up as well. Once again, our thoughts and prayers with Pat Williams' family in this moment. I know I know he was 84. He's a cancer survivor. This was very sudden though that happened. It was reported last week that he was having complications from a pneumonia and was in intensive care at the hospital. Even if you're prepared for something, it is still devastating. And so our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family, with the Magic organization, with everyone who knew him. May his memory be a blessing. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.